Benny, you've actually been doing some reporting on this. You had Lara Trump on not long before we're taping this right here, who made, I think, a very significant announcement about what we can expect to see from the Trump administration. She would be one to know. You asked her a great question. So let's go ahead and roll this clip. It's S2. And Benny, I want to ask you some more about your conversation. Let's roll it.
But he hears all the noise and he hears all of the consternation out there. And I think he's going to want to set things right as well. So I believe that there will probably be more coming on this. And I believe anything that they are able to release that doesn't, damage any witnesses or anyone underage or anything like that, I believe they'll probably try to get out sooner rather than later because they hear it and they understand it. So hopefully we see that happen sooner than later. And I guess that would be my advice. But to everybody out there who's all worked up about it, there's no great plot to keep this information away that I'm aware of. I do just believe that maybe it's been slow rolled for reasons that hopefully we understand down the line.
And Benny, I believe you also just reported before we went to tape this that Dan Bongino was in the office at work at the FBI today. So I believe you know Lara Trump and Dan Bongino. And I'm wondering, Benny, what your takeaway is from, as the day has gone on, where the MAGA movement is coming down on what happens next with this Epstein situation.
Everything's changed. So I spent the entire afternoon talking with federal law enforcement sources, and everything has changed. The attitude towards full disclosure, towards a special counsel, towards Pam Bondi having a unlimited press conference and maybe a recurring press conference on this, towards various investigators going out with their work, towards the unsealing of all of the evidence that may be boring, maybe pedantic, but is something that the American public wants and is would be a promise kept by the Trump administration. All of that evidence is currently under seal in the Southern District of New York. It belongs to the DOJ. The DOJ can unseal it at any time. There's been a massive movement, Emily. I can report that on your show first and exclusively towards massive disclosure. And a lot of this is because of what happened this weekend in Tampa, Florida, where I live, with Student Action Summit, Turning Point USA, where you had the likes of everyone from Steve Bannon to Megyn Kelly to Tucker Carlson calling for these releases. I myself called for the release on stage, and the cheers were uproarious. It was, of course, a student action conference inside of a sports arena, and it sounds like you just won the championship when you called for the release of the Epstein files. Charlie Kirk did a remarkable job on giving tough love, I think, and a bit of a friendly nudge to the administration. That is something that the base cares about. And when there's 7,000 of the rock hard, solid, base of President Trump inside of an arena, screaming and cheering for something, it's something that you cannot ignore. And so the difference is this: that they were heard, and Lara Trump just said that on my show, and the people who are calling for these disclosures have been heard by the Trump administration. Dan Bongino is back at work, and there's a major, major push for transparency now inside of the administration.
Well, and Benny, I actually wanted to ask you about the Turning Point Summit, and I have this article pulled up with the quote here from a girl who attended the summit and talked to NBC News, who said, "It's not even about Pam Bondi to me. It's like, look, Trump, we elected you because you were supposed to be different. So you have to prove to us you're different." And that quote stood out to me, Benny, because it's, I think, a really interesting distillation of why it matters to all of those thousands and thousands of people that were cheering when you called for the release of the files. Can you help us explain a little bit more, or help us understand a little bit more why this is an issue where it hasn't turned out Donald Trump could shoot someone on Fifth Avenue and still have everybody supporting him? This one, it didn't happen on that. Why this issue particularly?
Well, it's very simple. You can overcomplicate it, and there are many people who are trying, but it's very simple for the average American voter. We don't want to pay taxes to a pedophile cult. The end. Oh, that's it.
Controversial.
Yeah, no, I mean, you'd seem like that would be a winning issue. However, there's also, of course, the complicating issue that so many people inside of the Trump administration ran on these full disclosures and transparency. Some of those clips were from our program, where individuals like Dan Bongino and Kash Patel are out saying, like, hey, let's have full transparency here.
And Benny, can I actually stop you on that? Because we have a clip of Kash Patel on your show, and I believe this is from late 2023. So let's go ahead and roll here S1.
You know, it's the same thing with Epstein's list. It's like, what the hell are these Republicans doing? Oh,
I saw you
give out the list.
I saw you make news this morning about that. I got to get to that.
Yeah.
You say that the FBI has Epstein's list. They're sitting on it. That doesn't seem like something you should do. You're protecting the world's foremost predator. That seems like an evil thing to do, regardless of who may be embarrassed in the release of that list. Why is the FBI protecting the greatest pederast, the largest scale pederast in human history?
Simple, because of who's on that list. You don't think that Bill Gates is lobbying Congress night and day to prevent the disclosure of that list? And why is it that the Senate, you know, and good for Senator Blackburn to try to get it out, but then Dick Durbin comes over the top and says, no, we're not going to release the names. I don't care about the list itself, but if you release the names, right? What the hell are the House Republicans doing? They have the majority. You can't get the list? You're going to accept Dick Durbin's word or whoever that guy is as to who is on that list and who isn't, and that it can and can't be released? Put on your big boy pants and let us know who the pedophiles are. We have an election coming up, and we need to adjudicate this matter at the polls. God knows the FBI and DOJ aren't going to do anything. But how are you going to reward the FBI with a new headquarters building after their illegal surveillance on Donald Trump continues with a reauthorization of FISA, and we can't even get basic documents out? This is why America hates Congress. And this is why I'm tired of the Republican majority saying they're going to get the job done and failing.
So, Benny, where has that Kash Patel been for the last couple of days? I mean, no matter what happens in the future, I'm genuinely curious for your read on how we went from point A, which is that Kash Patel, to point B, the Kash Patel on Joe Rogan, and of the last several days. What happened in that period from your understanding?
So there's various trains of thought here, right? From various different sections of the movement. The Tucker Carlson section of the movement is it's all an intel op. And that once in office, there are too many very sensitive intelligence entities and relationships that you cannot piss off. And because Jeffrey Epstein was working for foreign intelligence agencies, the president's administration is taking a hands-off approach here. And they've been told to take a hands-off approach here. The other path towards where that Kash Patel went is that Kash Patel is still around. And that this is a complicated issue that has become more complicated by various districts or various organs inside of the federal government were not wanting to play ball with his FBI. And here's what I've learned in my reporting, which is that, one, Kash Patel knew what he was saying there in that very old clip. That clip is, again, from 2023. But Kash Patel knew that Bill Gates was blackmailed. This is a matter of absolute fact. It is not up for debate. Bill Gates was blackmailed by Jeffrey Epstein, according to the New York Times and the Washington Journal and the Wall Street Journal. This is something that absolutely happened. Bill Gates had an affair with a 20-year-old Russian that Epstein hooked him up with. And then Epstein blackmailed him over that affair. It ended up destroying his marriage. This is a matter of historic fact. This isn't even up for debate. And so that is blackmail. Kash Patel knew that. He said it on my show. And then the DOJ releases a memo in the dark of night to Axios, of all places, saying that there was no blackmail. Well, that's insane. All right. It's patently insane. It's not, maybe it's not something you can prove, but there was absolutely blackmail. And there were absolutely billionaires that Epstein was blackmailing. And so the question is, where is all that evidence? And the answer to that question, and you might not like it, Emily, but it's the truth, is that it's all in lockup. There are mountains, voluminous mountains of evidence. That is everything from like Epstein's cookbooks, right, to like bags of diamonds and stacks of passports with pseudonyms in them.
Hard drives.
And yes, of course, and hard drives that were marked evidence. And that's all in the Southern District of New York. That's a matter of fact because the DOJ houses that evidence for trial. And there are multiple ongoing trials that still pertain to Epstein, including Ghislaine Maxwell's appeal and including a bunch of civil cases that are ongoing against the Epstein estate. And that means that that evidence is under seal and a judge has got to release it. Now, the DOJ, and this is what I know based on reporting I'm breaking exclusively on your program, but that I know from just conversations I just had, the DOJ is going to now be making an effort to try and unseal that evidence and try and get that out to the American people. Will they be successful? I mean, a lot of it is dependent upon judges. I don't pretend to be a legal expert and understand. You'd have to bring somebody else on to really to explain to your audience what that will mean. and how that process goes. But the DOJ can make a very strong effort to release all of that evidence and just get everything out there, including the way that they did with JFK. And that would be my argument, is that, like, why not do it the way that you did with JFK? Most of the JFK stuff was quite boring. There was a lot of really fascinating stuff in there if you knew where to look, but they released hundreds of thousands of documents. Give that to the American people and start reestablishing those trust bridges.
And it's theoretically not hard to do that without releasing pornography that re-victimizes various women, right?
That's the thing that makes me the most angry, Emily. I've known you for a long time. Like, we're not here for that. And the slandering of the base and the assumption that that's all we want is that we're like mouth-breathing goblins who want more predator material on the internet. It's not. It's the exact opposite, actually. Like, quit blaming the fans. That's the thing that actually pisses me off the very most about this, is that they're saying, wait, it's you mouth breathers just want a bunch of like predator materials. Keep it, shove it in a corner where no one will ever see that. Nobody ever wants that material out there. But you're insulting our intelligence to say that that's all that you have, because that's not all that you have. In fact, the absolute opposite is true, and that's what makes my blood boil. That what we are trying to do here is to prevent further predation of children by causing maximum damage to the most well-known pedophile in human history. And that maximum damage looks like indictments or the destruction of the people who allowed for Jeffrey Epstein to operate, including, but not limited to, many politicians. Cindy McCain went viral on my page 2 days ago. I found an old clip of Cindy McCain saying, we all knew Epstein. We all knew what he was doing.
That's right.
But we couldn't go after him because we were all too scared. Well, that's enabling, lady. Shut up, lady. You're one of the most powerful women in politics. You were married to the guy who ran the Senate, right? John McCain's most powerful senator for a very long time, and a guy who ran for president in the Republican Party. Quit insulting our intelligence. How big was this cover-up operation? Who enabled this guy? And, by going after them with maximum damage and maximum pain, you probably would dissuade people from harming children in the future. And that's a positive thing. That's like a morally justifiable thing. You can defend that.